to episode 9 of the Meeple Podcast. I'm Bill Price.
And I'm Hollis Biggs.
And last week we talked about cards, everywhere cards. And today we are going the other direction. And this is all about...
Dice,
the other randomizer. So we have 2 games today that we played yesterday. And which one would you like to start with?
So I would like to talk about spots first.
Okay.
This was a fun, I don't want to say themeless game, but it did not have quite the same theme that most do. The theme is kind of spotted dogs.
Yeah, it's I'm not sure. It's very theme heavy in that everything is themed. But I don't know if you're like collecting dogs or if you're like training dogs or walking dogs or stealing dogs. Painting dogs. Like I'm not 100% convinced what's actually happening here. But Spots is a game for 1 to 4 players. So yes, you can solo it. But it's for 1 to 4 players. Takes about 30 minutes. Maybe a little longer if you're playing with 4. And it is a dice checking game. It comes with a big whole gigantic bunch of white dice, and so you'll see on our website and our Instagram, shameless plug, at the Meeple Podcast. You'll see that it has these cards, a whole bunch of dog cards, and they are all, I guess, Dalmatians of some sort.
Yeah, and they're all named, so they're kind of cute cards. It's very engaging. This would be fun to play with just about anybody, but I could definitely see this being, kind of very kid-friendly as well.
For sure.
Very cute and pretty easy to play. Some of the cards have multiple dogs on them. Some cards just have one dog. And each dog on a card has a couple of dice, like face-up dice.
Yeah, like die faces with pips. Might have a 6, a 5, a 3, what have you.
Great way to describe it. Yes, thank you. All those words were escaping me. But you're trying to cover all of the dice on each card. So, for example, I'm looking at a card with a dog named Raya. And Raya has 3 dice spaces on her dog self. And one is a 2, one is a 3, and one is a 5. So you're basically just rolling dice to try to cover your dogs.
Yes, so the winner is the first one to cover and score 6 dogs. And to do this, you have 6 tiles in the middle. 2 of them are consistently always in every game, and 4 of them kind of you can trade them out either randomly or pick certain ones that you like. And it changes up how you roll the dice. But what you do on a turn is you flip over one of the big tiles in the middle, and you do what it says. One might say, roll 3 dice. And so you roll 3 dice, and anything that you can put on your dogs, you put on your dogs. Anything you can't goes into your dog house, which is technically, I guess, your yard, and you bury it. You can only bury up to 7 pips worth of dice in your yard before you bust, which is kind of a, like you said yesterday, sort of a blackjack mechanic.
Yeah, it is very much, I think Bill described it this way yesterday, but it's a push your luck type of game. Because if you bust, it means not only do you lose all the dice in your yard, but you also lose all the dice on your dog cards that you haven't yet scored.
Yes, which can be either completely inconsequential or devastating, depending on what position you've left yourself in. So, the good thing about busting is that even though it wipes out the cards you haven't scored, it does actually wipe out the cards, the pips of dice in your yard. So it takes you down to 0, so you're kind of starting from fresh. So that's kind of nice. And sometimes if you're, running with 6 or 7 in your yard and, nothing really going on your dogs, maybe it's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to keep rolling these dice. Because some of the tiles will have things like you can roll a die and you can repeat this as many times as you want, but each time you have to roll an additional die. So you're like, okay, so pretty soon you're rolling a bunch of die, but if you can't take them on your dogs, then they have to go in your yard and you could bust again. So it's very much a push your luck, press your luck kind of game.
We played one trick tile yesterday that was kind of interesting. It gave you the option to roll 8 dice, which seems like, hey, maybe you could cover a lot with that. But the catch to that is you're going to choose a number that you rolled. So let's say you need a 2, a 3, and a 5, maybe on your dog cards. If you didn't roll any of those numbers, you're kind of out of luck, and you have to either discard or bury the rest of those dice, and you could bust pretty easily in that scenario. So, or say
yes. Yeah. So, and one of the cool things is because you kind of have a choice, and every trick tile does something very different. So it's very situational, and you may be like, okay, I have 3 different cards that have 4s on them, 4 spots on them. So maybe that one roll in the 8 die, maybe I can get a bunch of 4s and just keep all the 4s and discard the rest. Or maybe, hey, I'm really looking for one particular die. All I have available is I can take a 5. So I'm just going to take this one over here that just lets me roll 1 die, because I can pretty much take anything in my yard and play it safe that way. So it really is kind of up to you based on your situation, on which tile. There's not always like the best move. So it does take a lot of creativity and a little bit of strategy, but without giving you analysis paralysis, without making you think too much. This is a game you could play with kids. I could see playing this with 6 or 7-year-old. It helps if they can read, but honestly, they can kind of look at the pictures, and if you tell them enough times what it does, kids can roll die. Kids love to roll dice. That's kind of a thing. My kids like to roll dice, and
there's like 20 in here at least.
Oh yeah, there's
for them to throw. So
ton of dice. So I don't know why they necessarily gave that many dice, but maybe it's just a big sale on white dice that day, and they're like, hey, let's put them all in this game.
It's a lot of fun. And honestly, if you get a lot of cards where there's 2 or 3, I think 3 is maybe the max number of pips on each card. I got into kind of a risky spot at one point where I hadn't scored hardly any of my dogs, and I had 4 out in front of me. I was waiting on, a variety of different throws to kind of save me and to score these. The other thing you can do is you can burn one of your turns. You can kind of skip over your turn and bury, not bury, I'm sorry, wrong word. You can score one of your cards, one of your cards, one of your dogs. So I like to risk it. I definitely like to push my luck, and I majorly busted one round because I did not save all my dogs. Even though I'd covered a couple of them, I had 4 out in front of me, and the dice were not in my favor that time, that roll.
That's true, and they're not always. And that leads us to another concept in dice rolling games. A lot of dice rolling games have what we call dice mitigation, which is a way to either help you with rerolls or increase or decrease die, basically to make it so that you aren't 100% just basically flipping a coin every single time you roll the die. And the dice mitigation technique in this particular game is these treats. They're these wooden bone-looking meeples, I suppose. Beeples?
Beeples.
Bone-eeples.
Yep, there you go.
Bumples? I don't know, whatever you call them. And you can collect those, and you can turn one in to re-roll all of your dice. So there is a way, if you, I know at least once yesterday, I used some of my turns to use the tile to get more treats, and kind of saved up a bunch for when I really needed to roll something very specific. And it's just like, oh, I'm going to re-roll. Nope, turn one in, re-roll again. Nope, turn one in, re-roll again. And so it really does make you have some sort of control, some sort of agency over your dice rolls. So you're not just being, completely at the mercy of the dice gods constantly. So what did you think of this game overall?
I definitely am going to weight this one pretty high because I really enjoyed it. You know, it was a quick game. I know it says 30 minutes, but I think once I got the hang of it, this, you know, your biggest choice is which of the trick cards you're going to choose.
Right.
So, you know, I really enjoyed this. I am actually going to give this like an 8.5.
Wow. I think that might be one of the highest ones you've given so far.
Yeah, it's a quick game. It's a lot of fun. Definitely a great gateway game into other dice rolling games. So yeah, I'm gonna go 8.5.
Yeah, awesome. I will give it an 8 myself because we pull this out all the time. We're just looking to throw some dice. It's easy to set up. It's easy to tear down. It's really variable with the extra the different trick tiles that you can place. So it makes for a really different game every time. And some of them are pretty advanced. Some of them you're just like, why would I ever do that? But you have to, because once you use one, you flip it over. And so you have to use different ones until there's only one choice left. And then you flip them all back and everyone has access to them again. So the key is really just kind of figuring out when is the right opportunity to use one versus the other. And I think there's a lot of fun choices without being overwhelming. And I think it not only appeals to we're going to keep calling them the Uno players, the friends you have that have really never played any games before. Grandma can play spots, I think, very legitimately without any trouble.
Definitely.
Plus, she'll love the dog cards because they're super cute.
Oh, yeah. And it's not like you're having to hold a deck of cards or things like that. You don't really hold anything but the dice occasionally in order to throw them. So,
yep, I would definitely have dice trays on hand or something to roll into if you have this, because it's a lot of dice. So dice catastrophes can certainly happen. So, all right, and that is spots. What's next?
So next I want to talk about Mountain Goats.
Mountain Goats by All Play Games. Plays 2 to 4. Takes about 20 minutes. And it says it's for 8+. I think that's probably about right. There's a little bit of you need to know a little bit of addition for the dice. But do you want to explain this one, or do you want me to?
Honestly, you do a really great job of explaining these games. I like to talk about what I either did right or did wrong, and whether or not I won.
Well, we'll definitely talk about that. So basically, there's these stacks, and it's better to kind of get a glimpse on this on our Instagram account to sort of see how it's fully set up. But there's a 5-row, a 6-row or column, 5-column, 6-column, 7-column, 8-column, 9-column, and 10-column. And everybody has these goat meeples in their color, one for each column. And they're at the bottom of the column, and this is your mountain. And there's at the top of each column is a corresponding stack of point tokens. 5-point tokens on top of the 5, 6-point tokens on top of the 6, etc., up to 10. And so what you do is you roll 4 dice on your turn, and you kind of combine them any way that you want. You get a 3 and a 4, you can make that a 7. So maybe your other one's a 5 and a 6. So you're like, okay, I'm going to do the 3 and the 4 to make a 7, and then I'm going to use the 5 and the 6. So you can move your goat meeple up on the 5 once, on the 6 once, and on the 7 once. Once you get to the top of one of the columns, then you take one of the point tokens. And the cool thing is, if you stay up there, and you're up there when you roll again, and you roll that number again, you just get to take free point tokens, as long as you stay up there. Now, the kicker is when another goat hits the top of the mountain, they boot your goat all the way back down to the bottom, so you kind of have to start over again. Now, it's not as daunting as it seems, because there's only, anywhere from 4 to 2 steps up. So it's a bummer, but it's lighthearted fun. It's really quick. It goes at a good pace, even up to 4. I've played it at 2, 3, and 4. I wouldn't say there's a ton of strategy to this. It's just
No, the way you total up scores at the end of the game is you're totaling points based on how many tokens you have of each kind. So, like, I was really heavy on 6 tokens, which in hindsight, the strategy should have been, hey, I should have kept my mountain goat at the top of the 10s and taken all of them that I could.
Yeah, I was very heavy on the 10s. I had a lot of 10s. So.
Bill did win this game, but I still really liked mountain goats. So it's still a pretty quick game. I liked it in spite of my crushing defeat. But
yeah, it's a silly fun game. It's not, you don't think about this a whole lot. This is a social game. This when I've played 4-player, we've been standing up and a lot of man and I got you kind of moments. So a lot of laughs, a lot of fun. This is probably not gonna please your super hardcore gamer fans, but this is a fun family game.
Definitely.
And a good filler in between big games if you're playing a lot of big games.
Yeah. I think there's only 4 dice as well, so it's not like you're rolling, a set of 20 dice like Spots has. But each turn you're rolling all 4, and the kind of nice thing that I had to clarify yesterday when playing this was that you don't have to use all of the dice necessarily.
Correct.
So, like Bill gave a great example just a minute ago of, using all 4 of the dice to move 3 goats. I think a handful of turns I only moved 1 goat and just kind of burned the rest of the dice that I didn't use.
Yeah, and especially if you roll a bunch of low stuff, you may only be able to move up 1. Additionally, there is another rule in this one, and this is kind of the dice mitigation that Mountain Goats uses, is if you roll more than one, more than a single one, then you can, for any ones after that first one, you can change it to whatever you want. So if you roll like 1, 1, 2, 2, you'd be like, oh, well, I can't really do much with that. But you keep the 1, and the second one, maybe you make it a 6. Or a 5 or something, and then you can do whatever you want with it there. So if you roll a bunch of 1s, fear not, that doesn't take you out of, you can't just roll 4 1s and not be able to use it on anything. They thought better of that, and I think that was a really cool way to make sure that nobody has real bummer turns.
Oh yeah,
because I could see that happening. So I really like the way they did that.
And it doesn't happen, well, it didn't happen to us super often. I think we used that twice, maybe 3 times.
I think I used it twice. I think you used it maybe twice. So yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't impact you a ton, but it can really help kind of in a pinch.
I've played games where I've rolled 3 1s and a 3, and I've been like, well, this was worse. But I can fix this. So yeah, they definitely, if they didn't have that rule, I could see sometimes people just being like, well, I couldn't really do anything here with this one because I rolled so bad. But
yeah.
So you can't roll that bad here. You can always do something with every roll.
And the way the game ends, I can probably explain this part, but the way the game ends is that either 3 stacks of tokens, all of the 5 tokens, all of the 6 tokens, all the 7 tokens, whatever. 3 stacks of those are completely gone, or there are 4 other tokens that I don't think we've talked about yet.
Bonus tiles. So the bonus tiles you get when you collect a full set of 5 through 10. So you have at least one of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. That gets you a bonus token. When you get your second set, you get another bonus token. There's only 4 of them, like you were saying.
And so my limited strategy for this game was that I was shooting for that first token because the first token's worth 15 points. And so I thought, okay, well, in lieu of a 10 token, I'll just go ahead and collect 5 through 10. So I did hit that, which was exciting. Did not help me in the long run.
Close. We weren't that far off.
We weren't that far apart, but I have a new strategy for next time, and that's go for the high scoring tokens. So
gotcha.
That was kind of interesting, and there's 4 of those, and they decrease each round, I think. So like the next one was maybe worth 12 points. The next one was maybe worth
9 and 6. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds about right. And I think I got 2 of them, and I think Bill got the other 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how the game ended for us.
It is. Yes. Yep. Yes.
So that was pretty neat. And I thoroughly enjoyed mountain goats. Again, even though I didn't win, which is, kind
Now,
of surprising.
Your strategy of really getting a whole bunch of the high scoring tokens can be a little tough because like the 9s and the 10s, it only has to climb up one section before it gets to the top. So it's really hard if people are competing. It's really hard to stay on top of, especially 9 and 10. 8's a little bit easier. 7's a little bit easier. 5 and 6 are like pretty easy. If nobody's really focusing on it, you can stay up there all day. But if you get a whole bunch of 5 tokens, but somebody's getting 10 every time like that,
that's fair.
Not a good long term. But
I think the other comment that I would make about this game is that, we played it as a 2-player game. I think this game would be a little trickier as 3 or 4 player because you have more goats competing for those top spots where you're constantly collecting tokens. So
you get booted down to the bottom a lot more because you've got goats from 3 other people instead of 1 other person constantly coming up and kicking you down to the bottom. And so it does take a little bit longer with more people, but you also have more people taking tokens. So it doesn't take that much longer. It's a very well-balanced game at all player counts for sure.
Yeah, which is why I'm going to rate it again pretty high. I'm going to give this one another 8.5.
Wow.
It seems like I just really love every game, but
yeah,
we've played some really good ones so far.
We have. I'm going to give this one probably a 7.5. I enjoy it. I'll play it. It's probably not one that I'm always looking to be like, oh, let's play Mountain Goats. But if somebody's like, hey, I want to roll some dice and, have some drinks and hang out and there's 4 of us, be like, yeah, Mountain Goats, let's give that a shot because it's fun, it's easy to explain. It even says on the back can be explained and can be taught in 1 minute. I have not attempted the 1 minute explanation, but I can work on it.
3 or 4, I think, was adequate. I typically ask a ton of questions like, what's your strategy? Bill, tell me your strategy.
I don't have any strategy.
So he said, but he did win. So anyway, I thought Mountain Goats was really good. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't this get a pretty high rating? Was this ranked like in one of the like best games of the year or something, or best games of all time?
This actually did go on a couple of the Dice Tower guys' top 100s of all time. I think Chris and Wendy both put it on there. So yeah, it's good. It's fun. I enjoy it. I got no complaints about it. Now, before I forget, you just said something about it must seem like you love every game. Now, here's going to be our cliffhanger for next week because we found a game. We played a game, and it's one of the only games where, in fact, it is the only game we've played where Hollis immediately is like, can we play that again? Because I really want to make sure that I dislike it as much as I think I do.
And turns out, I feel the same.
And so I'm not going to say what this game is, but it's kind of our first miss. And I admit I hadn't played it either, but it's exceptionally well rated on Board Game Geek, the website, which we'll also get into here in a few episodes. But it's considered kind of a classic, and a lot of people really, really love it. And it's by Phil Walker Harding. I'll leave you with that. So I hate to say it.
Who's one of our favorites.
Yes. So
this was tough.
It is devastating to have to unleash this into the universe. But stay tuned for next week, and we will talk all about it and kind of I think where it went wrong for us and who it's right for.
Definitely.
All right. So until then, you can always get a hold of us at the Meeple Podcast on Instagram. And you can find us, the Meeple Podcast, on Facebook. And you can email us at themeeplepodcast@gmail.com, or themeeplepodcast.com is our website. I know it's a lot of information, but if you just do the 15 seconds back on this episode, you can just listen to us say it over and over again. It'll stick eventually. All right. Well, then, until next time, we will be back next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.